All right, Health Nugget today, we're going to talk about addictive behaviors. We'll see. This was kind of eye-opening for me too, okay? So hopefully we'll all learn something today. Now, when we think about addictions, we usually think about smoking, right? Smoking and drugs and things like that. We don't think about other types of addictions, but there are other types of addictions. So let's go ahead, let me turn this, and let's test ourselves. So look at these questions, kind of crazy. Do you watch TV every day for more than 2 hours? Most people don't. Well, a lot of us here probably don't, but we don't consider that watching it longer than 2 hours is an addiction, but I actually have studies on it, medical studies. So it is. Are you on social media, in addition to the TV, longer than an hour a day? That goes to the same thing as screen time, all right? What if it says here, you cannot control your anxiety for the remote control? When I read that one, I thought, oh boy, we were like that, 3 years ago? We don't watch TV anymore, and we have a TV that we put a YouTube up once in a while to watch a sermon, but we actually don't watch TV anymore. So it's really not an issue. So I'm happy to say today that one was overcome, but not without God's help, and that's the truth. If you drink coffee, have you tried to spend a few days without it? Now, a day, probably not a big deal, but have you gone a few days, and how did you feel? Were you shaking? Did you have a headache? If you're having those withdrawal symptoms, you might be looking at an addiction. Is it difficult to limit delicious food? I am not naming names, but it is hard for us to go through the potluck line more, or to not go through more than once, right? So I guess who does one plate? I'm trying. Okay, I'm trying, but sometimes that's hard. So that kind of touched the heart right there. Do you have soft drinks in your refrigerator at home? And that hints to the fact that sugar is actually quite addicting, right? So that would go for candy as well and things like that. Do you buy things that you just don't really need? Shopping can be an addiction, absolutely. Hoarding is right, and another symptom of addiction. Do you choose certain brand names of clothes? Yeah, I definitely know people like that. Do you watch or read inappropriate things? That could be romance novels, it could be pornography, it could be lots of things like that. Those are very real addictions, and they are in the church. And so, if you're looking at things that aren't right, you might actually want to hear this presentation, okay? Do you want to know everything? Now, I like to know lots of things. I love to absorb knowledge, so I'm thinking, wait, what? What if I do want to know everything? Well, gaining that knowledge can be an addiction. You can't put your books down. You can't stop your research. You want to just keep going and going and going. So it can turn into an addiction. Is it difficult not to comment on things that you just heard? Ooh, can gossiping be an addiction? Okay. Maybe talking can be an addiction. All right. Do you find it difficult to control using a credit card? That can go to spending money or shopping as well. We just talked about that. All right. So if you answered yes to any of these, even in the past, maybe you had a problem, maybe you don't have a problem now, congratulations, because you probably overcome it. But let's look at what we can do to try to break this addiction. And this is not like official counseling. This is actually biblical kind of stuff we'll get into, okay? But it also goes into the counseling world. Number one, acknowledge that you have a problem. Isn't that what they say at AA? First thing you got to do, step one, acknowledge that you have a problem. I think that's that way with any addiction. You got to see the problem. If you don't see the problem, you're not ready. Not ready to be broken free from that, okay? Number two, realize that you can't get out of it yourself. How many people with in alcoholism have to have that other support person? Even when you're talking about screen time or video games or things like that have become addictions, you really need somebody else there to kind of support you, maybe distract your mind, maybe set you back on track. It's always good to have a support person. And obviously here in this church, we know we can't do anything without the Lord. Nothing. So anything to be overcome, we would overcome with God's help, and we'll get to that. Number three, separate yourself from environments and friends that are actually shaping your addiction. Okay, we know that if you're an alcoholic, I go back to that again, you don't want to be hanging out with people that drink, even if you don't drink anymore, because the temptation is always there, and eventually you will slip. And it's probably like that with video game addiction. If you're you're trying to spend more time reading or doing something else, and you're hanging out with friends who are always on their phones playing games, the temptation to have your phone and play games will come back. And so these are just things to think about. So you may have to actually change your friendships, change the people you hang out with, because you are shaped by them and the things that they do. All right, here's some additional steps, and this is a health nugget. So let's look at this. It's really important to create an organized lifestyle. And when you do that, it will create the best environment possible to overcome an addiction. So you want to stay busy, and you want to stay focused on doing good for others and helping others. But idle minds are the devil's playground. Have you heard that? An idle mind is the devil's playground. That's a common expression, and it just is, because when you get bored, the devil starts planning ideas and getting you to maybe do things that you shouldn't. So you want to keep your mind engaged and busy. All right, so number 1, detox the body with water and a plant-based diet. Now you think that may not matter, but we have lifestyle centers that do this, that help people. They go in a 2-week retreat, and they don't eat meat or anything for 2 weeks. They eat a plant-based diet, and they drink half of their body weight in water. So remember, right, you're 200 pounds, you drink 100 ounces of water. Okay, that's the minimum. If you can do that, you will have a detox. And I have seen it so many times because I've worked at one of those facilities, and it is amazing. Even in just 1 week of that retreat, they will already be feeling the difference. So diet is very important, and detoxing with that water. Number 2, you want to walk or exercise every day. You need to get your heart rate up, and this will decrease anxiety and stress. And a lot of our addictions are driven by things like that: anxiety, stress, inability to cope. It could be boredom, right? We do these things for many reasons, but you want to make sure that you're releasing that stress and anxiety. 3 is rest. It's very important to sleep. If you're not sleeping at night at least 7 hours, then you're going to have a hard time coping. Your mind's not going to be clear. You're definitely going to slip and fall. Number 4, eliminate substances that open doors to addictions. And so there's lots of different things. A lot of this is based on research. I presented a lot of research here. We just talked about spices last Sabbath, and chili peppers and jalapenos and things like that leave you hungering for something more and something more. And we saw that in the research given by Chad Cruiser briefly on the screen. So even spices, sugar will do this as well. We know how addicting sugar is. So they can be gateways to other addictions for getting more and more and more. So you just want to be careful about those things. And we know caffeine does that. Of course, we know that. Number 5, you want to trust God to help you. And that's one of our 8 laws of health. And there is no way you're overcoming this without the Lord. I have seen people overcome for a while that don't know the Lord, that have gone to AA and they've gone to detox and things like that, and they've overcome. But the second they start hanging around somebody else or something changes in their environment, they slip and they fall and they go back. When you have the Lord in your life and you're trusting Him and you're focused on Him, He will help shape that environment, and He'll put it on your heart what to do, and He'll place people in your path to give you that success and outline that lifestyle that will help you overcome. So this is really just a look at, what is addictive behaviors? Do we have those? It's a moment of self-reflection. It's a moment of looking at this and saying, okay, what part do I need to change? Is it diet? Is it something else? Maybe I'm eating too much sugar. And do I not trust God? Am I not spending enough time with the Lord? These are things you might want to look at to help you overcome those things. And just know that whether it's a big bad addiction according to society, or whether it's something small, okay, like getting on your phone all the time, which can be small or big, I suppose, but we all have these problems, just so you know. Okay, all of us, because I look at this list and trust me, I'm still battling a thing or two. Okay, so I'm right there with you, but we have guidance in the Word of God, and we have them with the 8 laws of health. You can be free. There's many testimonies, and God wants you to be free, so He will help you. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful. And if you have any questions about addictions or you want to know more information, I can help you find that too. Happy Sabbath.